Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to Korean Atlanta Mentorship. And in this video, we're just going to run another practice session of paying off debts using something called velocity banking. So what is velocity banking? All it is a debt payoff cash flow management strategy using lines of credit as your main tool, or particularly one line of credit as your main tool. And you might be asking, what is a line of credit? Okay, and that's a very common question for people who are not familiar with velocity banking. All a line of credit is a financial tool where you could borrow money, pay back, and use it over and over again. In fact, I have a friend who pays for everything with a credit card. And I asked him, "Do you know what a line of credit is?" And he said, "What's that?" And I said, "Look, the credit card you use is a line of credit because all you can use it, pay it back, and reuse it over and over again." So we have two credit cards that are lines of credit, but what is the issue with credit cards? There are some restrictions, okay? You can't pay one credit card with another unless you're doing a balance transfer, and you can't pay a loan with a credit card, okay? But we may be able to get something called or access to something called a personal line of credit, right? And so in this example, let me just briefly go over the two things that we need in order to do velocity banking. So there's two things. One is a budget. So we have a budget right here of someone we call the average American, right? So someone who makes $5,000 after tax has about 3,400 expenses and 1,500 left over, which is a pretty decent savings, right? Because most people can't even have like a $400 emergency fund available to them in case something happens, like maybe like a car part breaks, right? If that happens, then they'll be screwed. But let's just assume that within our expenses, we have two credit cards and a student loan. So the whole point of velocity banking is to pay off our debts, right? So if I have $5,000 of income, but I have $5,000 of expenses and none of it is any debt at all, then velocity banking isn't going to help you. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're just going to assume two things. Number one is that we have the same income, and number two is that we have zero savings. So this will seem insane to a lot of people because they're not used to doing this way of banking, right? So the difference between the average American and velocity banker isn't how much money we make, even though making more money is great. The difference is what are we using as our main operating account? So for this person, it's going to be the checking account. For this person, it's going to be the line of credit, which goes to step two, that our line of credit is going to be our main operating account. Now, let's just assume we have access to what we call a personal line of credit at a $15,000 available limit. So it's very similar to a credit card, but we could use it to pay pretty much anything, right? We can use it to pay our credit card, student loan. We could even pay the bill of the personal line of credit from the personal line of credit. It's insane. I always call it paying Peter, robbing Peter to pay Peter, right? Like balance transfers are robbing Peter to pay Paul. Personal lines of credit is like robbing Peter to pay Peter. Although I don't recommend it because doing that, just because, especially if you're not going to do the strategy and you're not going to pay into your line of credit, your interest is just going to accrue upon interest, right? So you don't want to do that. But let's assume we have this $15,000 personal line of credit. So what is the strategy? Well, this basic strategy of velocity banking is this: paycheck into line of credit, expenses out, right? It's that simple. And all it is, okay, is when we put the entire paycheck into the line of credit, two things happen. Number one, the minimum monthly payment is satisfied, hence it's really not expense anymore, other than the interest that accrues during that period. Number two, when we put our entire paycheck, right, our entire paycheck, the average daily balance will be at its lowest, or not the average daily balance, the balance of the credit line will be at its lowest, therefore you'll get less interest because of the lower average daily balance. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and re-engineer our finances or redo our finances. Now, you'll notice that we have these two high interest rate credit cards. Okay. Why don't we just do a simple debt transfer? So the simple debt transfer is, again, it's simple. We move 5,000 and 9,000 to that line of credit, and therefore these payments will be zero. So this is going to be 14 grand. okay? And then now let's just copy what we have here, right? So now let's just take a look at our cash flow, and we magically went for 1,500 to 2 grand in one swoop without really doing anything, right? And one other thing I want to mention is that some of you might be thinking, man, it's so insane that who would lend you 15 grand in a personal line of credit, right? Because a personal line of credit is unsecured, and meaning, it's not tied to something like your house if you don't decide to pay. But guess what? You know, um, the best time to ever get credit or a line of credit is when you don't need it. And so sometimes it's best to get these things before you ever need it and have it on hand. So right here, I'm showing you a screenshot of my own line of credit, right? Personal line of credit with the credit union. And guess how much is available? 15 grand, bam, at a 15% interest rate, right? And again, banks don't lend money to people who need them. Okay? Like, put that in your head. A lot of people have a hard time accepting that, and then they wonder why they don't get credit, right? Or they're waiting till the moment that they need it to get credit. And because I understood that principle, that is why I have over $258,000 in lines of credit available to me. Okay? So now let's go back here and let's just go ahead and do the calculation, okay? So now what we're going to do is just calculate the months, J2 plus, no, I'm sorry. This is I2 plus 1, so that'll be the next month. And then the next month's balance is going to be the previous month's balance plus the previous month's interest minus our cash flow, which is 2040.9, 40.9, okay? And then the interest is going to be the average daily balance based on the average daily balance. And you could use this right here, right? Get that average right there. Now, for 1 month of oh my goodness, take a look at that. So for 1 month, I'm not going to pay 12 grand, right? So that's not the formula. So what you do is you multiply by the interest rate, which is 0.15, and that's still a lot of money, 2 grand. I'm not going to pay 2 grand just to use a personalized credit. And luckily, they don't calculate this way because they divide it by not 12 technically, by the number of days, and then they calculate by the number of days in the month. But just assume 12. It's a lot easier for you. And so month one, we pay about $162 in interest approximately, right? The estimation isn't exact. I mean, this is for the average daily balance, but it gives us a good starting point. And now all we have to do, guess what? Copy and paste. And you can see here at 8 months, okay, 8 months, we paid off 14 grand of credit card debt, right? 14 grand, mind blown. 14K and 8 months it took us to pay off this credit card debt. Mind blown, okay? And I didn't even do anything. And again, so where is our boom moment? Our boom moment is that banks don't lend you money, or credit unions or whatever don't lend you money when you need it. So we got to make sure that we get our lines of credit before we need it. A lot of people have a tough time with this. A lot of people, right? It's the opposite of what they told you in school. Okay, so let me go back here, and then now the only thing that's left is our student loan. So we have two options, right? We can directly overpay our student loan with our cash that's left over in our savings account, because essentially this would be in our savings account, or we could just help pay it off with our line of credit. Now, you might be thinking, why in the world would I ever use a 15% interest rate line of credit to help pay off the student loan? Well, there's two reasons for that. Number one is that if you directly pay the student loan, you've essentially lost that money in terms of liquidity. Like, you cannot go to the student loan company and call them and say, "Hey, I paid you more than 2 grand, but I have a $100 emergency. Can I get that money back?" Folks, there's a reason why the interest rates on a loan are lower, because that interest rate, you could kind of think of it as you have less access to your money. Whereas with the credit card or line of credit, it's has more interest because they give you more features, aka accessing your money whenever you want, right? The same thing with anything like software, right? Don't they charge you more money for more features? So they know that, okay, this credit card or line of credit has more features you can use, therefore we'll charge you more, right? So that's why you cannot get your money back if you overpay. Okay. Now, some people might say, well, yeah, do that, but use your credit card as a backup. Okay. So here's a second problem that we're trying to solve, something called segregation of income. So this is why the main reason why six-figure people are broke is because, and I've shown like the spreadsheet in other videos, where if you have one extra payment, that one extra payment will magically lead to like 15 different payments. And thus you're making minimum payments. And again, it's not a hard, fast, concrete law, right? But you have to understand that there's a lot of six-figure people out there who essentially become broke because of the segregation of income principle. Now, one of the things that we can do is essentially um, just do something called chunking to help pay it off quickly and prevent segregation of income, right? It's almost like wearing a safety belt when you're in your car, if that makes sense. It's like if you pay, you know, a little bit extra to wear a safety belt in your car, would you do it, right? You might have to pay a little bit extra, no problem, because I'll get there. I know I'll get there versus me putting my cash into that student loan, regretting it, and then making extra payments because I'm going to engage in segregation of income. This may not seem like a big deal to you, but once you get enough of random spreadsheets unsolicited to you to take a look that I'm making a lot of money and I'm broke, then at that point it will seem like a big deal to you. Okay, so let's just do this. Let me go ahead and open my Velocity Banking cheat sheet. Give me one moment. Okay, so actually, let me do this first. Let me get the loan balance at the end of, I believe it's 14 months. 14, no, 8 months. So what is the loan balance at 8 months? And we're just going to go monthly schedule right here. So it's going to be 23 grand for that student loan. Okay, so we only paid 2 grand off of the principal. And so what we can do is we could just put this in these numbers in our Velocity Banking cheat sheet, which I got from Renatus, and I'm actually a Renatus student, and I'm a what we call a independent contracted marketer. They also call us independent community makers because we're going to build communities all over the U.S. and I'm affiliated with in Atlanta. Okay, but this is where I originated Velocity Banking. And if you're a Renatus member or student, you can get this too. And have this cheat sheet calculator where you just plug it in and not have to think, right? Isn't that sweet? But let me go back here. So this is a $25,000 student loan, and I just type in the information. Okay, what's the current balance right now? 23,659.74. And let me just do that here. Okay, what's the interest rate? 4.5%. 10-year student loan, and what is my payment amount, which is 259.1. And then what is our income? Our income is 5,000, so we'll just do 5,000 and 15% line of credit, and 5,000 is our income, and what's our expenses except for the loan we're paying off? This is 2,700. Okay, so 2,700. And then you can see here that the loan pays off in 0.9 years, right? And again, the student loan, because it's such a low interest rate, doesn't have that much interest, but you are potentially saving money, right? So $748 of interest only, and you paid it off in 0.9 years, okay? So how much is 0.9 years? So zero point 0.9 times 12, that's about 10 months. So we'll say 18 months it takes us. So 25K, no, actually 49K, 18 months. So just a little bit under 2 years, we paid off 49K. Bam. and we're done, right? So we paid off our debts, and now we're in the extreme cash flow end of things, saving up $23,000, and then this will go to our savings. Oopsie, 2,300, and then this is going to be the next month 4,600, and so on and so forth, and we're ready to go, right? All right. Well, this is Create Atlanta Mentorship, just another Velocity Banking video for the day. I know I haven't posted in a YouTube video for the entire week. Like this is like the first one, but I think my body just told me to rest and said, "Don't make any videos this week." And I said, "Okay, I won't." But I had to post one on Friday because we have a super secret Friday study group. No, I'm just kidding. We don't. But I probably need to make a super secret study group for this. And here's the thing. I think I actually do have one. So the way to enter our super secret study group for real estate investing, financial literacy, and other things is to click the Google form link below. We'll get on a call to figure out if you're a good fit for the group, and I'll get to know you. I'll be on the call, right? And feel like if I'll get a feel if I can help you or not. But other than that, have a great day, everybody, and speak next time.